Hi everybody, welcome. And my name's Jo from Alchemy Journey, and I'm really thrilled to be talking with Rose today, my dear friend. And we're going to be just talking organically about beautiful things. And this, my channel is about celebrating people, celebrating humans who have got their boots on the ground and who are really doing their best in the chaos, and how they get to where they are, what they do with their lives to be still so connected to themselves. And so this is Rose. Rose.
Good morning. I am Rose. Do you want me to introduce myself, who I am?
I would love that. Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Rose. I'm living in Western Turkey. And I am between 86 and 87 years old. I can't believe it, but my body tells me so. And Jo is a good friend of mine. We met in a very odd way during COVID in a group, which in fact we all left fairly soon after we met. But we have been friends at a distance and close to ever since. But in the last year, we've come close together again, and are tuning into the same energies. And Jo's very kindly invited me for some extraordinary interview. And over to you, Jo.
Yeah, because with Rose, I find fascinating. 86 years young. I mean, can you believe it? She looks amazing. And the stories that we come across, the things that we talk about is just, it just lights me up. So to share Rose's story, she's got so much we could talk about, so many different topics we could talk about. And our meeting came during COVID. So before COVID, briefly, I had a very thriving holistic healing center here in Turkey, and from 2009 to 2019, and then the pandemic hit, the scandemic, whatever you would like to call that. And in that moment, I felt like I needed to find people that was thinking the way I did. I was almost like, because so many people around me had taken a different route and had a different mindset to what I was believing was going on. So yes, I did some research and found a group, and it was in Turkey. So it was like the area of Turkey, wasn't it? Our group.
Yeah.
I attended a meeting, which I was very excited about. My husband drove me there, and I met a mutual friend of ours who we still are very, very close to. And it sort of then evolved into us having breakfast together. Our friend arranged a lovely breakfast in Kalkan, and I met you, Rose.
That's right. That's right.
And it was such a breath of fresh air for me to be able to talk and to share the same views of what was actually happening in our world.
I mean, I think you also live in Turkey, as we do, but you are a long distance from where I live.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate I've been here living in Turkey since 2006, I think, 2005, 2006. And we have built up a little community of alternative-minded people. So I've had supportive companions.
Yeah.
But where you are, I think you have been in greater isolation. I've been in that role in my life, so I really understand it.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate. I'll go on later to talk about how COVID hit me.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah. So it was very isolated for me here, even though at that beginning, at the time when it sort of was birthed to us, this idea of this Convid and all of that, I did feel quite isolated, because even my husband and family we were still sort of navigating what this meant for us. And so meeting you, it was absolutely lovely. And you can continue with that story if you wish.
I mean, COVID was a watershed in a way, as far as I was concerned. I've had a long life, and I'm an uncomfortable being in many ways for conventional people, because I am a seeker. I can't help it. I came in that way. And I often get blamed for being disruptive and asking awkward questions and just being very difficult. And like I'm doing it on purpose. I'm me. I can't be it any other way.
Fantastic. And that's what I love about you. I love it.
Also, I was brought up from small as a Methodist. and in a church with a father who read and explored different groups. So I was used to having a richness of questions and debates and so on around me. So I do ask, I do question, I do challenge, and truth is very important to me. So when COVID came in, it was extraordinary because when it arrived, what the first wave, the first thing that hit was terror.
Yeah.
Because it was sold as being a killer.
Yeah.
That you had no escape from, and it was going to sweep through and kill everybody. And so for, I think, not even half a day, I felt that in the solar plexus, I felt that fear. And fortunately, and I'll go into this another time maybe, I had done a lot of work with friends when planning to go to Shuttleworth when the fighting was going on and the beheading was going on. So I had done a lot of inner work with a close friend about fear. And I was told at that time, it came to me very strongly that I came in to do work. I came in with something to do. When my role on earth was finished, I would depart. And I couldn't really do anything about that. That last statement is not what I thought at the time. So I didn't have anything to fear. If COVID was going to take me up, that was it. And all fear dropped.
Yeah. Amazing.
And so the rest of the time has been spent on another stage of the journey of exploration. And I'll stop there for a moment.
Yeah. So where you had that initial feeling, for me, I can remember it vividly. We were on our balcony and I was dishing up dinner and on the news, because at that time news was on at tea time, and I almost put everything down and went, here we go. It was like it was my moment to step into, this is it. This is what they've been wanting all their life. I am actually alive to witness what is happening here.
Wow.
And I said, do not. And I got 2 children and my husband, as you know, and I said, I am not taking that. I am not. And they all said, what? Well, it's there, in black and white, of course you are. And I said, I am not. And then I started to go on my rift. But I actually felt like I'd stepped more into my power. I had nothing about fear. I felt like from my 5 foot tall, I felt like I'd become 8 foot.
Wow.
That's how I felt. And that was it for me. And that's why I was so determined to find people that felt and thought the way I did.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. It was a great change. I decided I was going to, we have a ground floor apartment and big balconies. And I decided I was going to stay healthy. And so it was March and quite cold. So I got all my warm clothes and a blanket. And I spent every day, even in the drizzle, because it was a deep balcony, outside in the air. Talking. I had a neighbor upstairs who was part Greek and part came from Australia, and she had done a lot of exploring of politics. I had been into spiritual stuff, but not the political stuff. And so we sat by the hour talking, and she was feeding me all this information, for which I'm so grateful. Online, because we were shut off, it just became like a community sharing discoveries. And it was like a yes, which turned everything upside down, but made total sense.
100%. And for me, I think because I've been leading my retreats for 10 years, and I'd witnessed, I was living my purpose and I was in my element doing this job and what I was doing. And because I was leading so many people and seeing so many transformations and actually bringing people in to resensitize with themselves and just seeing the powers that were coming out, I was just in total shock that most of those people had complied. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Because I thought we were an army all walking in the same direction. Naively, I thought we were all so interested in being the best version and healing our traumas and wounds and really taking care of self. And then
it was extraordinary, that, because I really understand that we saw with such clarity. And it was like the veil had been lifted from the eyes. And it was so clear.
Yeah.
It was so clear. And the deception and the speed of the investigation that one could do online, which we've been blamed for being conspiracy theorists and believing nonsense. But actually, why should you believe what the mainstream tells us any more than what was down there? We were being told whatever. And what you and I were doing was listening to our gut.
Yes.
And it was making sense within. But we had been working in that way before.
Yeah.
For which I count myself extremely grateful.
Yeah.
But I had close friends and people who've been my guides and mentors who went along with the mainstream.
Yeah.
And like you said, I was so shocked.
Yeah.
With one in particular, I had to say, we'd better avoid one another until this is over, because I knew it would be over.
Yeah.
Because our friendship is more important.
Yeah.
This disagreement.
That's right.
Because we have stuff to do.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping, we can go backwards and forwards. But now, I don't know about you, I'm finding it easier if you feel people are close friends and they are loving beings.
That's right.
It's not so confronting.
Yeah.
And you can actually, if they're open, or if you are open, if I am open, say, look, we had better find a way of dealing with this.
Absolutely. Yeah. It did go through a period of them and us, but now for me, it's completely wholesome. It's not.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very healthy way to be. You can't, because this divide was all part of it too. But so you mentioned about you were very grateful because you had felt like you were in your authenticity before this. Can you touch on that? Like, what things have you done in your years to keep yourself in such of a knowing being?
My mind goes blank when you ask me that, but
okay.
From small,
I've
asked questions, or questions have come in probably from the age of 8 or 9 even, wanting to know what life is about. I want to make sense of life and death.
I agree.
What I was taught didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I was part of a very rich church experience, the Methodist Church, a very active, rich one, with 2 big youth clubs, one of which, the older one, my parents ran. So there were debates, there were walks, there were socials.
Yeah.
I don't know whether anybody is still alive, but there was a place in London called Speaker's Corner.
Okay.
And Donald Soper was a very famous speaker. I don't know, he might have been a Methodist minister, very famous internationally. He used to speak there. He came and talked to one of our youth clubs. And it was a really rich, it wasn't pompous.
No.
It was a teenage youth club with an excellent leader. So I was, and I was a Sunday school teacher. And I'm social, so I loved it. I really loved it. But as I got older, questions started to come in. And certainly there was a difference between what people said and what they did.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And I observed that. And then later, I married and had 2 children. And as a teenager, I don't know what yours was like. You're a different generation from me. My aim was to escape the control of parents, and I thought marriage was going to do that.
Okay.
That was a great shock, because actually it was probably the pursuit of sex more than anything else. I got married, I had the white dress, and then had a baby, and then I started to wake up.
Okay.
And to ask questions and to read poetry and to start to explore my inner feelings, if you like.
Amazing.
Not the religion, but my inner, and poetry and words. And I was reading newspapers and so on. And I then started to share this with my ex-husband. And he laughed at me because he was embarrassed with what I wanted to share. It was very deep. And that was one of the big shocks in life.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
That was a really, really deep shock. And it kind of probably, I only had one child then. The marriage was finished then. But it was many years before I could escape the marriage. And then I started to see through my parents.
Okay.
And I started to ask questions and to look around and explore. I got into politics. I was looking for answers, and what the question was now, looking back, I'm not sure. It's just, what is this all about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't remember at the moment when spirituality kind of hit me, but I got into politics and I became a socialist.
Okay.
And it was a very active party. I joined the women's group, and that was an escape from having two small children. And they invited speakers, and we had discussions, and it was wonderful. And through the women's group, I was knocking on doors and went to elections and monitored the count and so on. I met one friend in my road who was my mother's age, but a very different human being. And she introduced me to books, amazing authors and books. And C.S. Lewis was one.
Okay.
Different ways of exploring one's inner understanding met me at that stage. And I felt that socialism was the closest thing to Christianity that I could find at the time. Also, what came in when the children were tiny was Shelter, the national campaign for the homeless.
Okay.
And there was a very famous film called Kathy Come Home, to show this woman who had two children and who was step by step let down, and she found herself homeless. It was such an emotive, moving film. I was absolutely horrified, and that galvanized me. And I think I joined. You could join. And it was an extraordinary time. Am I talking too much?
No, what year are we sort of thinking about here?
Joanna, my daughter, was born in 62. The next one in 65. It would be the late 60s, the early 70s.
Okay.
No, actually, it probably was the mid 60s to the end of the 60s.
Wow.
You could look up when Shelter first came in. Des Wilson, who became an MP, was very well known. He was leading Shelter. I met him and went to meetings. Joan Ruddock became a close friend. She came to a party at our place at one stage. She then linked with politics. Then that started. We had gathered a group of friends around, and I used to talk at meetings about Shelter. We raised money locally, went to fairs and fetes and things like this. How I did it now, I have no idea, but it was very, very active.
Yeah.
To raise the consciousness and to raise money, really. We were opening a shop in what was an grain and dog biscuits and farmers' stores right by the river in Guildford. That must have been, I think, about 1968. And there was a storm with a sorry.
It's okay.
I couldn't find that storage.
Later, sorry.
It's time to look.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
That's my partner. It was a very famous incident. There was a fireball explosion like thunder and lightning. I saw it from my window. Just this ball of light exploded between our 3-story house and above the gardens with the houses that backed onto us. And it rained solidly, and there was an enormous flood.
Wow.
The river flooded all the shops and premises by the river to the depth of about 6 feet, 8 feet. I mean, they were on boats rescuing. And the place where we were opening the following week, we had famous people we'd organised to come and open it and be interviewed on behalf of Shelter. I didn't know how we were going to open because the place was soaking wet.
Uh-huh.
And so I found myself on the phone to the army, to the military, who actually brought in heaters and helped us to come in and dry. I mean, it's extraordinary the way it happened. And I linked up with all the town, the Knights of St. Columba, the Catholic organisation. I can't remember the names. There were two, a group of business people. I can't remember what it's called. Most towns and cities have one. I just became quite well known. I became press secretary to the women's group of the Labour Party. So I was really active, and it was fantastic. Housebound Housewives, I joined, and they invited speakers. That was an extraordinary seminal time because they had two Muslims. That really woke me up. They had two Muslim speakers from different parts of the world who came to talk about their faith. And it was fascinating, but it really hit me like an explosion. Their interpretations of their faith, each one from a different part of the world, was so different. I thought, if this is a true faith, it's the same wherever you are. How come you're able to manipulate your faith to suit you or yourself? Now, that's not truth. And then I started moving on from there. And the Labour Party was no longer, I saw through, we went to a full meeting with the men as well as the women. And we know it's a very different energy. And I was shocked because our meetings with the women were lively and questioning and open. And you could say anything. But with the men, they had a routine and it was fixed. And you were not allowed to move outside their box. And somebody made a suggestion for something to be done in Guildford, which was really brilliant. But they wouldn't allow it because it had come from a conservative local party member. And that I left immediately if that was going to be so narrow. And I discovered international communism and went to a few of their meetings because I was searching then because I'd seen something that didn't. So what did make sense? And international communism, they were young and they were fiery and it was fantastic. That lasted for 2 meetings, after which I had probed a little and they were just as fixed as the Labour Party was.
Interesting. And
then I started looking at education and exploring education. Anyway, I'll stop now because it's your turn.
Yeah, and so this like whole little bit of your background, because we're still only in the sort of 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
I think really reflects today, because one thing I love about you is that, and our friendship is that when you ask me a question, you're actually waiting and very interested in my answer. That's so rare these days to get your whole sort of end of the story out, and I love that about you. And it just shows that from all of that, you were always in that role where the truth mattered and you really wanted to listen and help and bring this open-mindedness in. So I feel that's, I love that about you. So let's just flip forward to so another thing I loved as well was on Facebook, because we all went online during this sort of the last 5 years, 6 years, or whatever. And your posts were very, for me, you always got a like from me because you never felt like you cared. You never, you cared, but you always expressed your feelings and your truth in your posts, which created conflict as well, right?
I mean, it's extraordinary because I hate confrontation.
Yeah.
I cause it everywhere because I also have to speak truth.
Yeah.
I don't have any choice. So it causes conflict, and people say I stir conflict. I really hate it. And I hate to be unpopular.
Yeah.
But what I saw, in my view, at that time, was the mainstream had all the, not just the power, but had everything. Excuse me, I'm saying farewell to my partner. Good wishes. I'll send you a telephone thing. Right. Sorry about that. He's off to do some work. where were we?
Yeah, the conflict on your posts in Facebook and speaking.
Yeah, because I like to be part of the community, but it seemed to me very unfair, and I cannot bear injustice. This is one thing. I can't bear injustice of any kind. And the fact that the mainstream had the microphone, it had all the places, it had all the power, it had all the places, it had all the opportunity. It's the only voice that was being heard. And my friends here kept telling me to stop telling my truth because it was going to damage my relationships and my friendships and be very painful.
Okay.
And I had to accept that, but proceed anyway, because it was more important that the truth came in. And I can remember saying that those in the community that knew me, if they, you know, they should know who I was and who my heart was, regardless of COVID. And if they didn't, well, they weren't my friends.
Yeah, very good.
And that was quite painful at times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We don't have any choice. If we embrace truth, we don't have any choice.
Absolutely. And I found that too. I had so many people ask, saying, well, you're never going to be able to travel again. You're never going to be able to go to theatre. You're never going to be able to go to restaurants. And I said, I won't travel then. I won't do those things.
No, me too.
I will make a life. I will make a life that serves me without that. And people were blown away.
Yeah.
You know, and just blown away because of my certainty in the path that I was taking. I was not doing it. And I would happily compromise or not have the luxuries that they thought in life because I didn't want it.
I mean, it was extraordinary, and people still excuse themselves by saying, you know, it was my brother's wedding or whatever. I mean, in a way, I was lucky. I did have. I lost people during COVID, but the Zoom was wonderful, and we could link up. But I was not going to travel. I was not going to take a test, and I was not going to take the vaccination. Yeah. I mean, it's been stated so many times since with your children. You're so careful. You sterilize everything. You really look at everything that's in food when they're tiny, and yet they're allowed to have these injections without knowing what the heck is in them.
And
it just fills me with horror.
Yeah, and in the way it was forced and the awful mandates and things, it just didn't ring true. So, but you're still in a lovely little community in your Kalkan, even though your truths came out and people learned to either take it or leave it, I guess.
I think there were a number of people. Well, we've got a tight-knit, a small group who are very active and outspoken. They didn't post as much as I did, but they posted quite a lot. But beyond that, I think there were maybe a number of people in Kalkan here who sympathized but weren't going to speak out. Because if you did, my God, you could get dumped on. Yeah. And you've got to be very tough. You have to be. In many ways, I didn't think I was that tough, but I was and am and have to be. And many are still, good friends. But something it did do, and I started to post because of it, was throughout Britain and throughout the planet, it enabled other people to speak up, not just in Kalkan, who picked up my post. I picked up a number of friends in different parts of England, in America, in different countries, who had felt isolated and found a voice here, who was speaking out. And I knew that was important at the time. Yeah. And also there's a wonderful phrase that kept ringing and still does, that if you put your hand in the hand of God, expect a rough ride. Okay. I was a Christian. Christ consciousness is something that is very powerful, but I'm not a Christian. Okay. I embrace the inner core of all belief, if you like, which to me is spirit. So I was going to ask, actually, your driving force, like you, because, COVID sort of put us back. It took us off our path and put us somewhere else for a while until we discovered what we were going to do about all of this. So and we're all, our journeys are forever being interfered with, or, our experiences, people passing and things.
So you're coming back to this lovely self is your core. You always come back to that, right?
Yes, because I mean, I having gone through religion and then politics, and I joined. God, I'm not quite sure. I have to look at the age of the children. Probably after that, I think what happened was I went back to teaching, and they wanted. I put my daughter, the elder daughter, into nursery school. I think I must have, and I went back to teaching in a secondary school down the road. They were hilarious and awful and very formative times. And I met a guy there, a man who we had what's called a free period of teaching, and there was nobody else in the staff room. And he started talking to me about J.G. Bennett and Gurdjieff and national and international teachers like this. I wish I could remember the names of books that Gurdjieff was very famous. He came from Georgia, I think in the 20s. Madame Blavatsky, there was a Theosophist. I didn't join the Theosophist movement, but I read about it, and it was very fascinating. There was a book called Meetings with Remarkable Men. And this friend, I don't know whether he's even alive because he was a good 10, 15 years older than me.
Okay.
Had been brought up with this, and this was absolutely explosive. And this linked up at the time when I knew Joan Ruddock and so on. So we had a social life which included politics and shelter and politicians, and this new way of seeing things. And there was a centre. They rented this place up in. I knew I couldn't remember it earlier today, in the West Country above Bristol in Gloucestershire.
Okay.
And it had been, I can't remember, I should know because it was wonderful and horrific at the same time. My marriage was extremely uncomfortable at that time because I am a persistent. This exploration, what I'm doing, is more important than anything. And it's terrible because it was uncomfortable for my daughters as well. Mm-hmm. But and they fought it because they went through. You can imagine if you're going through different guides, different gurus, different religions. It is uncomfortable to live with unless you're doing it too. My friend from school, who's no longer alive, my close friend from school, she was exploring too. Mm-hmm. Eventually, she found an Indian guru, so she always went in that direction. Okay. I didn't want to join. I seemed I wasn't allowed to join anything and become boxed in by anything. But we went. They ran a summer school, and this guy, I just call him John. Yeah. I'm sure he's no longer alive, and the whole thing isn't. And there was the man who ran this movement was J.G. Bennett, John Godolphin Bennett, with his first wife Polly and Elizabeth, and he had 2 grown-up sons and younger sons. And it was an enormous. It had been one of the big houses, and we had a week there. Mm-hmm. Oh God! We learned the Zikr form of meditation. We learned Gurdjieff movements. We had John who was doing the teaching, and then another guy who came in. And I mean, I'm awful actually because it was terrifying. But if I didn't agree with something, I spoke up and got everything dumped on my head and argue, because you've got to be true unto yourself.
Absolutely, 100%.
And they were wonderful, awful times, because I don't know how many people were there, 50 or 60 people or more. And we had to take turns cleaning for everybody and cooking for everybody. Right. I'm not a servant type. I'm not proud of that, but I'm very resentful and don't like scrubbing saucepans and things like that. I'm much happier sitting down and talking. But I met some wonderful people. and I saw a lot of things. The women's lib movement was active at that stage, and that experience where I think, did they want the men what it was, the men had to take at that place, had to put the rubbish out. This sounds a silly thing, but it was quite important to me. And the women couldn't take the rubbish out because they weren't strong enough to carry these big bins.
Okay.
Whereas the men did. And just at the same time, I suddenly saw that this women's lib movement was crazy, because men had a role and women had a role. And we had to learn what that was and to respect it. And the women's lib were trying to be men, and they couldn't because they weren't.
Right.
Something like that. So
Yeah.
I got through the women's lib movement quite quickly as well. Looking back, it was quite fast. And we had hilarious times, but there were so many really important things when I worked with that group of people. It was very painful and very open.
Yeah.
We did Gurdjieff movements, which I still love.
Mm-hmm.
They were amazing, and I still look online and listen to this extraordinary music. He came from Georgia, from far eastern Turkey, that area, the mountains, and these ancient holy men. So there was something very, very deep in there, but it also was very cruel and unloving.
Wow.
Do you know, to some extent, it didn't have the heart that you have and I have, which is now really, like you, I mean, it was an exploring to find out what is real and what am I looking for, really, that actually made sense. And we used to, my friend and I used to drive up a week to Kingston on Thames, and we would learn these movements. And Joe, they were extraordinary, because you'd have one series of movements with your hands, one with your head, one with your legs, and then there was a pattern you'd learned for moving up and down, forwards and back and sideways on the floor.
So it was like a proper integration of self, like you had to really
it was to stop the mind from interfering. The mind couldn't sense.
Yeah.
And it was hysterical, but because if you were doing the movement sideways, there were 5 rows of 6 people. You would knock people over.
Brilliant.
And we put on a movements show at Kensington Church Street in London. And you wore these wonderful white tunics, and you had a colour sash and lovely white Turkish type trousers in wonderful crepe cotton. And I was put in the front row, which is a blessing in a way, because you didn't have anybody there to interfere with you. If they went wrong, you would copy them. But you didn't have anybody to follow either.
Wow.
And I mean, extraordinary times, quite extraordinary times. It got absolutely bad at one point, that we were all falling apart. And John, who guided this, he brought in somebody from this centre in Gloucestershire, who just looked at us and said, for God's sake, you look like you're dying, all of you. You're taking life and it so seriously, which was John. John had been sort of pushing us and beating at us.
Wow.
Laugh. And I said, thank God for that. Because I was at the point of thinking I would follow the fallen angel rather than God, you know?
Yeah.
And horrified, but I would have.
Yeah. So interesting. What a story.
I mean, that takes me, this is back when I was at college. I mean, it was an inner journey, and still is in a way, that I was at college in Manchester, and we went up to York one day. They organised for us to see the first round of mystery plays at York that they'd been allowed to have since the war. And it was a beautiful June day. And at some point, I think as the sun was setting and the clock chimed in the York Cathedral or whatever it was, the angels came out and stood. It was very powerful stuff. But they made Satan, the devil, the most beautiful man you have ever seen.
Really?
Oh, he wasn't with the tail and no. And it was very clever because
Right.
I'd have gone with the devil. He was absolutely gorgeous. I was 20.
Oh, wow. That's so
And that
nice.
again, I mean, it seems a small thing, but it was such an eye-opener from somebody who was born in 1939 and things, you know, Victor Sylvester and his ballroom orchestra was the most exciting thing on the radio at the time.
Amazing. Rose, we could really deep dive into that, and I really want to, but I want to just a little fast forward because of your quest. And your quest, I know that you've done I can't remember, I think it might be an hour long or more video with Kerry Cassidy about Göbekli Tepe.
Yes.
Now, Göbekli Tepe for me is a place that I am, and since meeting you, I know I've been badgering you to take another quest because I really want to go there, and I really want to go there with somebody who has the knowledge that you have about it. I think I'm going to save the talk about Göbekli Tepe to our part 2 because we're already nearly up to an hour. But this quest in you it's still very strong, isn't it? This quest to be authentic, this quest to be sovereign, this quest to be truthful, and this quest to go back to Tepe. If you could you just give us like a little taster of what was your calling to Göbekli Tepe? And then we're carrying on in a part 2.
Well, this was living in Turkey. I came in 2006 and made different friends. Yeah, it was, I thought that because I was so horrified with the kind of sexuality between older women and Turkish men. So coming from a series of spiritual groups, it was quite a nightmare. So I thought I needed to bring healers in for Kalkan. And I didn't. It was to do with the energy lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so a group of people, I'll go into that another time.
Yes, please.
That was really an important part leading in. And I met with a different group of people then. And through that, I met a friend who was following another form of spirituality, which was a bit for me like the Gurdjieff people. But she became a close friend. She lived in Fethiye in Chalish. And in fact, I looked after her crystal bowl for many years. And she came back from a holiday in England in 2009, I think it was. And she was so excited because she'd seen a film about Göbekli Tepe on the BBC. And she told me all about it. And the thing that stood out for me was that the earliest temples they discovered this series of temples at Göbekli Tepe in 68 or 98 or whenever it was. And the most extraordinary thing to me, which nobody else had seemed to pick on, was that the earliest temples were the most advanced.
Okay.
And that just didn't make any sense because we've been taught history. It starts with the primitive and they become more and more skillful. But on Göbekli Tepe, these temples became less and less skillful. Mm-hmm. Completely. And this didn't make any sense. So I knew I had to find out what was going on here. And nobody, there were so many different experts and nobody picked up on that. And so I thought we have to go. And I knew we had to go before it got taken over by the powers that be and covered up and became famous and well organized and shiny and polished. And I am blessed with my partner, because we clash over many, many things, but he is willing to get up and go. He's not fixed at all. He's quite extraordinary, really.
You're a great team.
When we're working in that way, we are brilliant.
Yeah.
With help from a dear friend of mine who said, leave him to do his stuff and you do yours. And it works really well.
Yeah.
And he'll leave me to do mine. And we went for the first time, probably in 2009, in the October, November. And it led on from there. We actually met the museum director.
Yeah, I know that your story.
I'll tell the story in detail.
Because there's a lot of people, people that you follow that talk about Göbekli Tepe. They speculate about it. They've seen it through pictures, but you've been there, felt it, smelt it. and touched it, and I think that's something that we could definitely go into, and that will then lead us into more of how you keep it real in your 86th year.
Oh, extraordinary times there. I mean, I've gone through my life thinking I haven't done anything really, but when I write it down or talk about it, and I have been led. It's not me. I've been open, I guess, but I have been led, and still am.
Yeah, I feel. And
but what I knew from the last visit, I was told quite clearly. I thought we'd finished. I thought we discovered everything, and my inner voice said, "Not quite."
oh my God, that's got to be a part 2 cliffhanger. That has to be. And our stories are quite resonant, even though, okay, we're different generations. But for me, I never had a guru or a follower. I never joined a group. I always did this work. I decided when the doctors told me I had a disease that was incurable, that I had to, after searching so externally to heal that, it became to the point where I became so desperate and so disappointed in that nothing external could help me, that I decided to marry myself and take myself on.
When did that happen to you?
I was, I think I was about 27 when I got diagnosed with a disease that they said was incurable, and I had to learn to live with it. And they said the only thing they could offer me, and this is many doctors in Turkey and in England, because I seeked everywhere for a cure, and they would only give me antidepressants to help me deal with it, and long-term antibiotics, so life, as long as I needed to take it to keep it at bay. And after healing it, I knew that both of those two things would never have cured me anyway. So it was
Were you in Turkey when you had this diagnosis?
Yeah, I was in England at the time, but I also got diagnosed here as well. I made more my husband take me to many doctors here, because I could not believe that this thing had arrived on my face and there was no cure for it, because I never had it before and it was there, but it absolutely soul destroyed me. Maybe it's something that we could talk about.
Yeah, I didn't know this. I didn't know.
Yeah. So I took myself on, and when I moved to Turkey, I sold my business and house in England and everything to almost retreat myself. I needed to heal. I needed to, like, from my dad being killed, I think that was escalation of why this disease arrived, dis-ease arrived.
Yeah.
I can remember, in brief, I would take my kids to school and it would be my time to unfuck myself, if you like, and to get myself. And I spent many a day, an hour on myself until I healed myself. And then I started to understand my gifts and the truth that I was, and that I'd been a weirdo and called the black sheep all my life. And I just wanted to then bring myself out and do and serve my purpose, because I did it all for myself. So my learnings, I've been inspired by many, but my actual truth and learnings have all come from within.
It's the only true place, isn't it?
It is. It's just, they say about dropping the veil, we need to drop, but we have to drop our own veil. The veil is the dissolving of us. But oh my God, we could talk for hours, but I feel that this is a great place to pause this one. And then we'll arrange for part 2 if you're up for that, because I want to definitely talk about Göbekli Tepe. And there's so many. And I know that you had this desire to write your memoirs. And I mean, that we can talk your memoirs. Yeah. At 86 years young, Rose, you said something when we spoke yesterday, actually, that you were teaching your husband dance and your partner dance in the kitchen and having such fun and laughing. I absolutely adore you, and you make me, it's so beautiful.
I mean, it's nothing unusual to me. It's it's just, I'm a Taurian.
Yeah.
And Taurians don't do heavy.
No.
It's got to be fun. This is why in with the Gurdjieff people, when it gets heavy, I'm going.
Certainly, yeah.
It's got to be, it has to be light, it has to be fun.
And life doesn't stop. Like people, there's such barriers, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. You're still doing and living and ticking off and dreaming and desires. It's still there. It's still so prominent.
Because there's still a lot to do.
Absolutely, and that's what's so
There's
exciting.
still a lot to do, and I'm so delighted to have met you, because I was kind of stuck and not knowing which way to go.
Well, we're going to keep going if you're willing.
We definitely are. This is fantastic.
Yeah. And even like, we haven't even talked about what the work that me and you have been doing together with our lovely friend Lynn, who maybe we can bring in at some point. So I'm going to close this now. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and just bringing our friendship even closer. And I hope you've enjoyed it as much as me.
Thank you, Jo. I have enjoyed it, and you are a blessing.
Okay, and we will speak again soon. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.